Okay.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. We've met in closed session. A quorum has been established. And let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We'll start tonight with the approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the August 19th business meeting? These minutes will be made public within 5 days of our approval.
Nancy, we can do them all.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we need to
We
do
do
them
them all
all
at once?
individually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to do them all at once?
So moved.
A second.
Second, okay.
We have to, Joanne, read the dates of the minutes.
Well, they'll be, that will show in the minutes, it will reflect it in the minutes. These are just, I mean, that's up to you. I mean,
Okay.
that is reflected in the written minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so Julia motions and Deb
Second.
Yes.
seconds. We need to take,
Roll call.
Yes.
Aye.
Mike Davenport,
Aye.
Keith Mattoon,
Aye.
Rick Babonato,
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
I abstain because I wasn't here. Okay. Time for our first reception of visitors. We'll ask any visitor to come forward who wishes to address the board on any topic pertaining to Community High School District 99. And we'll ask you to limit it to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to the recommendations and report of the superintendent. And we have a slight change in our lineup today, Doctor?
Yes, Dr. Kupka, we've had a request to allow South High Counseling staff members to make their presentation about ramp certification first.
Okay.
That's not an issue at all for us. The board has to hear all the reports. So the order isn't an issue. But I would then recommend that we do hear the ramp certification report, and that's going to be provided by Amy Klug and Terry Teisman from South High. So welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and share this information with all of you. We're here to share information about the RAMP certification process that the DGS counseling program has been taking on for the last about 18 months. RAMP stands for Recognized ASCA Model Program, as you can see on the slide. ASCA is the American School Counseling Association. The ASCA national model sets up the structure for a comprehensive, data-driven counseling program. And this slide shows the people who are serving on that RAMP committee, which are Amy Klug and me and Tim Christie, Corey Rasho, Kate Gavin, Bill Scubas, school psychologist, and Vince Walsh-Rock, Associate Principal for Counseling and Student Support. If we could go to the second slide, please. Counselors work closely with students, parents, teachers, administrators in our community with the common goal of improving student achievement. ASCA's national model includes 4 parts, which you can see on the screen there: our accountability, the delivery system, foundation, and management system. This model recommends counselors spend at least 80% of their time in direct student services, and that is what is included there under delivery system, which includes their school guidance curriculum, individual student planning, recognition, responsive services, and system support. As DGS counselors charted last year how our time was being spent, we were very pleased to learn that we were in fact meeting that 80% mark. This is one example of how this RAMP certification process enables us to examine our work with the goal of delivering a comprehensive counseling program that supports all of our students.
There are 3 main focus areas that counselors will provide direct services to students, and that's the academic area, the career area, and the personal social area. These are where we spend the majority of our time. The ASCA model allows us to spend the majority of our time in those areas to improve student performance, which is directly related to district goals of improving student performance. As it says in the second bullet point up there, ASCA answers not only the question of what do the school counselors do, but also how are the students different as a result of what we do. Go to the next slide. So in the RAMP process, it gives us the opportunity to see the ways that we are fulfilling the ASCA model. And all of these that are listed up here are the different areas that we collected data, looked for information, and disaggregated all the information that we found to see the ways that we were spending our time as counselors. Some of the high points within these components of what we learned were the formation of our advisory council, where we were able to work with community members and students to look at how our communication was functioning within the community and with students and families, and improve those communication lines. Also, as Mr. Theismann had mentioned, looking at our calendars and seeing how we were spending our time was a really powerful way for all of the counselors in our department to feel like they were doing the best services for students. Even though sometimes the data that we found wasn't always 100% in our favor, it's given us the opportunity then to go back and look at what maybe we were doing, not necessarily wrong, but differently than the ideal, and to see what we might be able to change in order to increase student performance. So we started, this is our timeline of how this process has unveiled. And so we formed the committee last spring, and this was after doing a full program audit just among the counselors and everybody thinking about what we were doing within our department and how we were already meeting some of the ASCA standards. And so we formed the committee of a smaller number of counselors and one of the psychologists in our building so that we could look at each component and then give some jobs out to other individuals in our department. So it really did become a department-wide initiative. People were working in their professional learning communities to work on some of these components. One of those examples is we worked on increasing AP and honors enrollment among our African American population. We saw really positive results for that, not only with that population, but also with our Hispanic population and all other groups of students. So enrollment in AP and honors courses, it has increased in our building, which I think is directly related to one of the district goals. We're currently working, since we've done a lot of the data collection and we've reviewed a lot of the data and tried to find meaning within the data, now we have to write narratives of everything that we've done and what all the data means. And that is what we have to submit to American School Counselor Association to hopefully achieve the RAMP status. So that is what we're working on now. We did that over the summer. And we continue to do that now. As you can see, we're here tonight to present to the board and just ask for the board's support in this endeavor. We're submitting our application in a month, and so after that, we find out if we're approved. If we are approved, then we're one of an elite group of counseling departments in our country that have this designation at this point. It's a very small number at this point. So it's a distinction for our school to be able to have that. We'll find out in January. There is a good possibility, as with a lot of things, that we might get some feedback that there are portions of it that need to be revised in order to meet the RAMP status. And so we'll do revisions if necessary and then find out in May. And then it's a continual process. So then for 3 years, we continue to collect data. We consistently seek to improve our programming and then re-ramp in every 3 years, submitting a new application. So I believe that concludes the information that we wanted to share with you. Are there any questions?
Question or comments?
I do have a question. One, were we planning as a district, we're starting this at South High School, and once, if it is successful, if you like the way this goes, are we going to be implementing this at North High School then as well? Would it be district-wide?
Maybe I should answer that question. When this initially started, both schools did a rather rigorous self-analysis of guidance and for counseling and student support services. The result of that was South chose to go in this direction immediately. North chose to do some different things prior to going in this direction. There were some components of the South program North did not have, like a college and career center. That was added a year ago. And North has also done some different things in terms of groups with targeted groups of students that they had not done in the past. So I think the next step for them is to look at this process. But that's just because the two departments were at different places when this started, that led to South going directly to this and North taking a more circuitous path.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
How will this benefit the district? I think I can see intuitively, but are there areas that you're seeing that it might benefit the district that I might not be aware of?
Anything we hadn't mentioned? I would say that to be able to provide the evidence that what our counseling department is doing is directly benefiting student achievement is a benefit to us all, because it's sometimes a hard department to collect data on and to say we're directly improving grades or we're directly increasing grade point averages and things like that. But there are certainly a lot of pieces like enrolling students in more challenging coursework and advocating for that, and advocating for students in general that helps to improve the school and the district as a whole. So I guess I would say that's probably where we're going to benefit everybody.
Thank you.
The only thing I'd like to say is, could you keep us updated as this progresses along?
Yeah.
Instead of waiting till, let us know how it goes.
Yeah, we would like to be able to update you, and especially if we have good news, then we'll share that.
Celebrate.
We'll celebrate with you when you get your good news.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Right.
Well, I'd like to congratulate you because I don't think this was any small feat, and I think anytime you have the opportunity to apply for certification or accreditation, it makes you really measure yourself up against a standard, and that's difficult to do.
Yeah.
So good luck. It'll
Thank
be
you.
quite prestigious when you win.
Yes.
When you're awarded. Any last questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I
your
don't
time.
think this is a board vote. I think
Nope.
you sign it, Dr. Cupp, as the president of the board.
Yes.
That's
It's in the
the expectation.
All done. We're all good.
Happily. Right away, you need it right away?
Within a few days. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy and Terry.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck.
Thank you.
Dr. Cupper, that was a good segue into the next report. The district goals proposed district goals for 2013-2014. This is a structure the board has had in place now for a number of years. We have a strategic plan. Every year we select a set of goals that will progress the strategic plan forward. There are some cases where we've actually completed the requirement of strategic plan. I'm thinking about the master site plan at both campuses. I'm thinking about some of the communication structures we've implemented. I'm thinking about the Read 180 program for underachievers. Then there are other examples. However, we do have a number of areas that we want to address to continue to affect the letter and spirit of the strategic plan, and we hope that the goals we've drafted will support that. Now, there are, of course, I think 4 or 5 pages of these. The board has had them to look at now for several weeks. We are not going to go through each one. We're going to highlight just a couple, just to give you a sense of their emphasis or our emphasis. And frankly, our colleagues from South High just basically addressed one, and that would be in the innovation section about improved student services, because this is the outcome of the work that we started in this area a couple years ago. So there's no need to address that. Several of my colleagues in the ASC administrative team are going to assist me in this, talking about things that they in fact are responsible for, but I will start. I would call the board's attention to, we have these highlighted on the overhead, so everyone can see them. We are going to implement the AVID program this year. That's as the board is aware, that's a program for students who perhaps have the ability to go to college and do well, but frankly aren't at that mode at this point. And we're seeking to find ways to push them into higher level courses, give them experience, give them confidence in themselves as learners and students. This is a national program. There's a model. We spent a lot of time and money learning this model. We've had a lot of people trained in it. We were very careful about selecting students for it, and we in fact are running it now for the first group of freshmen. At the end of the year, the board should expect a report about the progress of our students in the program. That will include the grades they earned, their attendance, their success in honors or advanced classes, and their ongoing enrollment in AVID. Additionally, by the end of the school year, we expect to have a second class at each campus so that we'll be running 2 classes simultaneously. So that, I do want to highlight that as something that we focused on, and this is a year when all our prior work and planning bears fruition, and we have kids in the program who are doing well. I want to go down to 1.3B. And we've talked about this before. This is an area that we have struggled in terms of aligning the District 99 literacy instruction across the district at both campuses, and more importantly, using quantitative measures to measure its effectiveness. That's something we have not been able to do yet with any degree of success. However, this year we are focusing on that, and we do expect to have quantitative measures of how well we believe our staff development is affecting students' achievement in reading. I think you saw some of that at the report in July, but not anywhere near as comprehensive as we hope to be. Scott, the co-teaching.
Yeah, so we're conducting a co-teaching audit this year, and we're working on building the framework right now with our department chairs from both buildings, what kind of data we're going to look at. One of the things that we're kind of charged with as a group is to not only look at the data for this year, but to build a framework that we can look at data every year, because that'll help look at how can we provide professional development for staff, how staff can use the data in their PLCs, just to improve instruction and supports for them and for the students. And then we're obviously looking at the effectiveness overall, so we can make recommendations for future, for hiring of staff and things like that. So we're excited about it. It's something that the schools are looking forward to doing and providing a lot of data, so to guide us.
Scott, who's going to be doing the audits?
We're going to do it internally, so I'm going to oversee it and really collect the data. Like some of the data we're looking at is we're going to look at GEM scores, we're going to look at grades, we are going to look at some student feedback, staff feedback, so it's going to be a variety of data that we're going to bring forward.
Will we be going into the classrooms and actually observing?
You know what, we haven't quite identified that part of it, but I mean, I have a series of times that I'm going in to see classes, and then the department chairs go in, so I mean, that might be part of it to look at in terms of, that's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Jim, you're going to talk a little bit about the facilities goals.
Sure. The transition program facility, we're currently going into the construction phase right now for the build-out, projecting to have students and staff in there for second semester. That's Tuesday, January 21st. Also want to update you on master facility plan. We have a meeting scheduled next week. The meeting consists of District 99 administration, White Architects, and their educational planner. His name's Rick Dewar. So more to come on facility plan.
Rod, technology.
The goal that Mark asked me to highlight was building on our discussion and work last year and last spring, was to move us toward a one-to-one computing model where students have full-time access to digital resources. We've got several pages worth of questions that we need to answer in order to develop that. Thankfully, we have a lot of other districts near and far that are in varying points of the journey. we'll be able to ask them. We're looking at devices, at processes, at funding, at professional development. Of course, instruction is most paramount, and technology, support, and infrastructure. Those are the 6 main areas that we'll be looking at. And we are, even though this is a goal for this year, my personal goal and my hope is that by mid-year, we'll be in a pretty substantial completion standpoint of a roadmap, so we can start to make some decisions about the how aspect of this and the funding aspects and those things. I'm trying to be as aggressive as we can with reaching some key decision points.
Pete, resources and personnel?
In area 4.2A, taking a look at appraisal, just to kind of give you an update. As you know, we tweaked the classroom teacher post-evaluation document that is being implemented this year. That's already up on Blackboard, being used for the observations. We're also doing the system electronically this year, trying to get rid of all the paper copies. So we've created folders for that to be submitted in order for us to keep track of all of that. As you know, we had the Administrator Academy in August, where all of the ASC administrators, building administrators, and department chairs began conversation about inter-rater reliability. We have 5 more 3-hour workshops scheduled between now and February. The next one will be September 26th. And then this year we're reconvening the appraisal committee that will meet next on October 9th. We continue to work through our process of making sure everybody has a clear understanding of what we're looking for in our evaluation of staff, how we determine the final ratings, and placing teachers into groups that we have to submit in the spring. 4.3A, the National Board Certification. Our cohort group consists of 15 people, 13 teachers from District 99 who are going through the process for the first time. We have 1 teacher who is renewing National Board Certification, and then we have 1 teacher from the East Aurora School District who's traveling out here to be part of our cohort group. They did the June Jumpstart program, which was 2 days in June, and then we had our first meeting September 3rd, and our next meeting is tomorrow afternoon. It's roughly twice a month that we'll get everybody together here for about 2 hours to work with the program director to help our staff move along and become nationally board certified.
Fantastic.
Ms. Browning, communications?
I'm going to highlight 2 goals in communications for this year. The first is to conduct a follow-up survey that we did. If you'll recall, back in 2012, it's hard to believe that just in May it's going to be 2 years already, that we administered that survey and taking a look at our communications program that was pretty new. So it'll be fun to have data and have 2 years of data to see how perceptions have changed, how we can continue to improve. And I'm especially interested to look at social media, because when we had this survey last time, 77% said they had no interest in Facebook at all. Well, now we have, 2 years later, we have almost 3,000 followers of all of our official district Facebook pages, so that'll be fun to see if that's changed at all. We're also going to launch our Key Communicators program. I've reached out to different people personally from the villages and from libraries kind of across the board, and we'll continue to do so to include them in an email list for these people who might not have a student, so that they can be sure to get our news and make us aware of anything that we need to be aware of within the district. So 2 things for communications.
And as I said, we have already had a presentation tonight about the ramp certification, which would address 7.2A. And those are the goals we were going to highlight tonight. I'm sure the board has some questions, and we'll hear them now.
I do. And some of these, I have to confess some procrastination on this, because we have had these for a couple weeks, but I didn't wrap up my review of this until this afternoon. So I'll just track through this, maybe my comments, and if anyone else wants to chime in. On item number 1, for 1.3B, we touched on that. Is it fair to say, though, that, I mean, the measurement and action as stated there is almost identical to what we wrote in the 2012-2013 goals. So is it fair to say, we had previous goal as implementing parallel staff development strategies at both buildings? Did we not do that at all, or should this actually be more correctly stated that we're expanding on something we've already begun?
I think we attempted to do that. We have not done that to the level that I would expect. As I indicated to the board in July, this is an area that I did not feel we accomplished.
Right.
And so essentially, we are still doing the same thing we plan to do in 2012-13.
Okay.
One of the things that we learned several years ago when we started the process was that we are doing effective staff development at both campuses. We're just doing different staff development at both campuses.
Remember that discussion.
And you could, frankly, make an argument that either of several things we were doing is very effective and we should do universally. So the question is, can we measure these things quantitatively and ergo determine, well, this in fact is better. We may not find that to be the case. We might find that things are relatively similar in their effect, but one is less expensive or staff rich than another, and so that would give us pause to go and evaluate what we're doing. But it's always been the goal to try to figure out how effective this intervention is.
I was just hopeful that there was something that was implemented in the previous year that we'd be able to expand on and continue with, and that would be part of this. That's so just some clarification, but what you're saying is fine with me. We need to essentially hit the reset button and reattack it. Is what I'm hearing.
I think that's accurate.
1.3C. I'm wondering, should this one be listed really as an ongoing goal? Because we had a similar situation previous year as well, where we talked about it being 2013, 2014. Now we're looking at using the results to affect staffing and staff development decisions in 2014 and 15. This seems like, I'm guessing that next year I'll see it restated again, except for 15, 16. So we've done a nice job of listing previous. I think it's kind of helpful.
I think this is the same case as 1.3B.
Sure.
This was not accomplished. Frankly, it was accomplished less thoroughly than 1.3B. So we're basically doing this again because we didn't get it right.
Well, what I was getting to is that 1.1A, 1.2A, 1.4A, we state this is an ongoing goal.
Right.
And so it just seemed to me that would be something that we might add here, just for curriculum, or for case of getting it correct. Yeah, clarification, get it right. Okay. With 1.4B, should we be saying anything about any new courses offered there? Because we're talking about implementing new curriculum associated with science, technology, engineering, and math. And then we're talking about measuring the percentage of students who complete STEM courses successfully, and then success to be determined by program staff, but will include grades, attendance. But the goal was to implement new curriculum associated with this.
Right.
And so it would seem to me that one of the measures would be talking about something new that we're doing, maybe something with courses.
You want the specific courses listed? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I was looking back, for instance, at the 2012-2013 goals. We said, as a measurement, new courses in CTE, Project Lead the Way, math, fourth-year elective, in science, AP Physics, C Math, mechanics, are ready for implementation in 2013. So just as, because I have to, so I'm just comparing to, well, what were our goals in the previous year, and where do we end up, and how are we carrying that forward?
Okay.
And so, so rather than just have a measurement here, I would have thought we would have had something about some action things, because we're going to.
New course has already been developed.
And then that's it.
But they were developed.
Right.
And students were enrolled in them, and this year we are implementing them.
I'm wondering
So
if,
if you're asking whether we should have listed the courses that we are implementing, but I don't think that's,
no, what I was
I
just,
understand what you're,
what I'm saying is that we had some new courses to implement previous, and so I'm asking, are we implementing yet new courses addition?
right.
Are there more new courses that we would be implementing in the upcoming year that would align with this? Yeah.
I guess my response would be, there are the answer is yes, but they're sort of the second phase of the same course.
Okay.
So not necessarily, I guess that would be different than, this is a whole new area where we're going to develop curriculum. We're basically following a strand of courses over time.
Fair enough. Under facilities,
Mike?
Oh, sorry.
Can you go on? Can I just interrupt
sure.
you for a
You want
second?
to just take maybe one section at a time?
Yeah, I was going to say, does anybody else have any questions about or statements about curriculum instruction and assessment? Okay, facilities.
All right, so under facilities, love to see goal completed. That's more of those we can see, the better, right? I mean, that's really terrific. Was wondering under 2.2A, increased community use of district facilities. This is an ongoing goal, and then we were going to, as a measurement, report about community usage and revenue. But I'm wondering if there should be some sort of action listed there as well. What we're doing to increase community use of district facilities, other than just measure the amount of use that's occurred.
Were you looking for like a quarterly report?
No,
You mean
the
like a
actions
marketing
that we're
plan?
I'm
using to get more.
Like a marketing plan?
I'm not actually asking for anything in particular. I'm actually asking staff to tell me.
What
Because these are, I mean, what we're doing here is we list a task, and then we're listing what the plan is in terms of how we're going to address that task. How we're going to measure it, and maybe what action we might be taking to meet that goal. And so in this regard, I see the task being increased community use of district facilities. This is an ongoing goal. We're going to report about community usage and revenue, but I mean, I think we would have done that whether that was the task, whether we're going to report on that one way or another. What we're talking about here is a goal of trying to increase community use of district facilities. And I know that we've been doing that, right. and quite successfully, as a matter of fact. And so to maybe have a statement here about that, I think would be appropriate going forward. What we're doing, we've just hired a replacement person to take care of our facility management, and I'm not sure what we would say here, though. This is for you to develop, right? In terms of and then I guess I would have a similar comment under 2.3B: implement facility maintenance plan, report about impact of maintenance plan. That seems pretty straightforward, but I don't know if there might be any other actions associated with the facility maintenance plan going forward.
I guess I'll make this point, and then
Sure.
And then perhaps, Mike, you and I can meet later for some of these things, because I want to make sure I capture or understand exactly what
Certainly.
you're telling me. When I look at the measurement action area, there are some things that we can measure the effect on, we can gather data about, and we can report the data. We can report the number of students who successfully completed the pre-engineering course in STEM, right?
Right.
There are other things that they're more sort of a dichotomy, either we do them or we don't. And so the action that indicates that they're done that's the measurement. They were done.
Right.
So in terms of how they were done, I guess I would put that over that in the task side as opposed to the measurement action side. This, because I'm looking at the measurement action as this is the outcome of the task.
Okay. Sometimes our action is to develop a plan, and that's response to the task. So that would be the action, right? So I mean, I don't think I'm completely off base with what I'm suggesting here, but I understand your point.
Okay.
So that's it for me on 2. So I'll yield the floor to somebody else if they want to say something about facilities.
Yes.
Anybody?
I don't know if it's quarterly or if it's biannually.
Rick, Deb, anything about facilities?
I did. I just wondered, is the report that they of maybe usage of the facilities on a quarterly basis and the income generated, or is it a biannual report, or is it a yearly
We've done
report?
it annually.
Got an annual report
That it was
last year.
biannually, okay.
Could we make that quarterly or biannually versus yearly,
Sure.
just to kind of see what's going on and what's being used? And
Sure.
Anything else on facilities? Technology?
I'll lead the way again. 3.1B, under the task, develop a required District 99-wide staff development framework that supports student achievement. Required, that by whom?
By the administration. We have
Okay.
required staff development now.
Okay,
We have 3 staff development strands: cooperative learning, CRIS, which is an acronym for instructional strategies, and assessment literacy. All staff members are required to take those 3
got it.
within a set period.
I was just hung up on the word required and not knowing, I mean, so that's, we're developing our District 99-wide staff development framework. Okay. We're reporting about that plan and preparations to implement plan during 2014-2015. I'm wondering, with this one, I wrote here, use of previous year's training development results as a basis for further direction. If you look at once again, the previous year's 3.1B, we talked about taking findings and using those as a basis for further direction. So, I almost was looking for something that would reflect back on that accomplishment and using that going forward.
Okay.
And this is, I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but this is, this is how we measure and
Sure.
and how we keep track of what we're doing.
But I will say that information was included in the July State of
Yep.
the District report.
Right.
Yes.
So part of this is, we didn't just develop this from the previous year, we also
No.
developed this from the July report as well.
Got it. And then 3.1C, I think we heard about that, and it's a vision not just during 2014, 2015, but actually and beyond, really. And I have nothing else to say about technology.
Any other comments on technology?
Resources, personnel, staff development, finances. 4.1A, I was wondering about what about retention and mentoring? The task was implement a plan for recruiting, retaining, and mentoring minority faculty members, build cultural competency. This is an ongoing goal. And then the measurement action was report about the number of minority candidates interviewed and hired, report on university partnerships. And I don't think we were addressing the retainage and mentoring in this task.
Okay.
4.3A was pretty great. I had some comments, but I appreciate the highlighting on that, so I'll skip by that. And then and 4.3B seems to be in a duplication of the previous year's task and measurement. So I'm wondering if that's not an ongoing goal.
Well, 4.3B was another one that was not addressed last year.
Okay.
Okay.
And under 4.4B, I think the measurement action should read adjusted future budgets, and then the word to reflect legislative changes. That's a picky one, but sorry. That's it for 4 for me.
Any comments or questions?
Last page. Communications. 5.1B, 5.1C, 5.1D, all state goal completed, but aren't actually all these ongoing? I mean, really, so it's not like we're going to stop working on these tasks, right?
No.
So to state them as
Providing irrelevant.
right, to state them as
Stop talking to anybody.
right. We're done. Well, I just want the document to reflect truly our hard work and what we're doing here. And in fact, these are we were successful last year, and more success coming, I'm sure. But they're ongoing things, not really tasks that have been completed and are done. And then 5.2C. Saying something, it says training provided and assessed. I would say training to be provided and assessed. Would that be correct?
Either way.
Conduct media training for board and administration. So, well, we're talking about our goals for the next year.
If it's done, then it's
Right.
past tense. So.
Yeah. So we did it, so there's nothing more to do with that? Will we be doing it again or not?
We'll see, maybe, after
Okay.
we go through it, but yeah, perhaps.
Well, these are our district goals for next year, or this coming year, the year 2013, 2014. And this is the task, is to conduct media training for board and administration. So if we're saying we're not doing any more with that and it's done, then that one maybe should say goal completed.
We could probably always use more training.
Sure. Probably could.
I think it goes back to what was said before, which is how you read it.
Yes.
If that's the actual task, then you will measure it because it's provided and assessed. And I think that the bigger issue is that there's some inconsistency in how it's portrayed in here. So we all need one universal understanding of what it all means, and it needs to be consistently formatted.
Fair?
Fair?
That's it for 5 for me.
Any other comments or questions on communications? No? Okay. Community?
I have nothing.
Anyone else for community? Innovation?
Nothing to add.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Well, I think Mike has covered it pretty completely, which I appreciate. I do
that was good.
appreciate it. And once again, it's a very comprehensive set of goals. It's always challenging, and it's amazing to me that we that our staff and get so much accomplished in 1 year's time. But we always have plenty more to do, and this is a good outline for it.
I agree. I think it's tough, too, to present in one, 10-minute, 5-minute moment a snapshot of where the entire district is, so.
Well, I think I might,
Complex.
since I went and I actually hit on a couple things that we need, we're talking about hitting a reset button on. And also worth mentioning that as we established a lot of these goals and strategic plan and such, we knew going into it that it was an awful big task.
Right.
And we set some ambitious goals. And it's not entirely unexpected that we don't get done everything we hoped that we would. So in fairness,
That's a good point.
I think that's worth sharing.
Okay, are we ready to move on to the salary and benefit report?
Okay. Each year, we are required by legislation to publish on the website a report about benefits for administrators and teachers, as well as IMRF employees. The IMRF employee report was put up in July. This report is going on the website at the board meeting tonight. Previously, we had 2 reports, an administrator-only report and an administrator-teacher report. But we're led to believe that that's redundant, and we can accomplish the legislation by publishing both reports together. Ergo, that's what we're going to do.
And this reflects last year's data that's being published now.
That's correct. It reflects the salaries paid for the 2012-13 school year.
Worth pointing out. Good clarification. For record.
Any other questions or comments? Move on. School signs?
Thank you, Dr. Kupka. As the board is aware, we have several school signs on our campuses. They have several purposes, one of which is to provide information to the public. We have a bit of a dilemma because given the Village of Downers Grove sign ordinance, with one exception, our signs are out of compliance. And we lost a sign in the 2011 tornado at South High. We could not put that back in the same location and at the same size because it would also be out of compliance, ergo we have not put the sign back. And so, because the drop dead date for the ordinance occurs in 2014, we have to do something. So we've been doing some research, and we do have several options. I don't see any option that has no involvement of asking the village for a variance or a consideration, but there are different levels of that. And so what we'd like to do tonight is to present some of this information to you, show you some examples of what we found in doing a survey of area high schools, DuPage County high schools, and then basically have a discussion with the board about the direction we should go. It's a complex issue. It doesn't have a lot to do with teaching and learning, but it is important in our community because people do like to see the signs. It's public relations for us. It's information for a lot of people, especially those who don't have kids in school anymore. So I'll turn the presentation over to Mrs. Browning and Mr. Collegier, who did a lot of this research.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald. Current signs, we have 2 at North High School and 2 at South High School, and 1 message center sign that was lost in the storm. This is the current sign at North High School on Main Street. It's out of compliance.
Mr. Collegier, could you explain exactly what being out of compliance means for those of us that aren't up to code?
For this sign, out of compliance, it's too tall. It can only be 6 foot tall. It has to be 40 feet from the curb. And the message area cannot be over 20 square feet.
It's in the center of the building there.
And the general philosophy of the ordinance is what? I mean, their basic philosophy for having this tight of a restriction, from your understanding, would be what?
I think they base it out of acreage. If you're under 40 acres or over 40 acres, which south is, but north is under, and that's how they come to the 40 feet from the curb. And the 6 feet high, that's standard for both. And the sign square footage varies. With the smaller acreage, you get 20 square feet as the maximum. With the over 40 acres, you have a maximum of 50 square feet. That's a quick way of, I don't know if I've confused you more.
No, and so the reasoning then would be aesthetics, so that every business, every corporation, every whatever entity would largely look the same, uniformity?
That's my understanding of the ordinance, Mr. Mattoon. I don't think the ordinance was about the signs at the schools. I think that the ordinance was about commercial signs in general and at certain parts of the community. And there was a concern that it was an aesthetic issue, and the village wanted to standardize the size of signs and improve some of the areas that they felt were where the signs were inappropriate.
And if I might, because I have some history on this too, just to say that so the ordinance was really written in response to a lot of things that were going on that we didn't like, particularly along Ogden Avenue and places like that. And it's been in place now for a number of years. I think 2007 was the idea was there would be a period of time for businesses to come into compliance with the ordinance, and slowly people have done that. Others have not. And we're running up now we're running up against that deadline that's in the ordinance. So, but it was primarily an aesthetic issue, and so.
Thank you. I just wanted to have that on the record for our friends and neighbors and community members to kind of understand and appreciate really what we're talking about.
Good.
Our next slide is also North Campus. This is on the west side of the building by the athletic entrance. This is in compliance. This is South High School, 63rd and Dunham, out of compliance. Also South High School, east side of the building facing Dunham by main entrance, out of compliance.
What a shame.
The previous sign that was damaged in a tornado on Dunham on 63rd. And Marty trying to figure it all out.
Should he take down that tree or not?
To do what to do.
You said the sign that was on the building, that one is in compliance at North?
It is in compliance. We do not have a letter that's saying we need to take that down or change it.
So Mark, I don't know if you wanted to review this slide.
Go ahead,
Based on
Mrs.
your-
Browning.
Okay. So with 4 possible options, we can wait and learn more as we go. It's been up and for this amount of time, so we can just see what happens in the months that unfold. We can retrofit the signs according to the ordinance as written, so that would require us to make some movements with the signs and adjust them. We could seek a variance in the ordinance to keep our current signs and replace what was lost, or we could pursue the possibility to install digital signage. So that's what we have spent some time on the next slides. We took a trip and...
Before we go on to that,
Yeah.
Mrs. Browning,
Yes.
could we go back to this? Just a couple points. We talk about retrofitting the signs according to the ordinance. That would include removing some of the signs that are out of compliance. That would include changing the size of the north sign and perhaps moving it. That would include constructing, were we to, and I would presume the expectation is we would put a sign at South High School, as we had in the past. We would have to put that in a different location, further from the street, and it would have to be smaller. So, in terms of that's really what we'd be looking at. I think we would have the possibility, based on previous conversations, with perhaps getting a variance for the sign at North Side, so we wouldn't have to put it at the principal's office. We might be able to get the same for the sign at South, so we wouldn't have to put it in the Mid-7 athletic field. But that would be a process we'd have to undertake in order to simply retrofit signs and according to the ordinance. We're talking about a more aggressive variance, whatever we're going to call that, to keep the current signs as they are, and that would be replacing the south sign where it was and at the size it was roughly, and not replacing the north sign, leaving it as is. We'd probably still have to take down the signs out of compliance at South High that Jim had showed you, that are basically set in stone, not messages to the public as the one lost was. And in terms of the final install a digital sign, frankly, the board did pursue that in 2007 and 8. And did get to the level, went through the plan commission, and did get the support at the plan commission, but failed at the village council level. So we have done this before.
Can I just add that the one sign that is in compliance on the west side of North, you can't really read unless you're walking in to the drive.
It's not effective.
It's a very intimate sign.
It's a very intimate sign, indeed. It's not effective. So even though we're in compliance, it's still an effective sign.
Agree.
Does it make a difference if the sign is coming from, from pillars off of the ground versus on the building itself? Does the size have to be the same if it's on the building versus?
I'll let staff in.
Thank you.
Negative. The ordinance is from the ground level being 6 feet high. So the sign that you see that's hanging on the wall is compliant. I don't think, I haven't gone into that ordinance to look into how big and how large it can go. I do know the monument signs or the signs that are on the ground can only go 6 feet high right now according to the ordinance.
I'm just sort of thinking a little bit out of the box. I'm just wondering if where our sign placements were before, if somehow those could be changed, would it be visually effective if all, and I'm not saying yes, I haven't even looked into it, but I'm wondering if it were on the building itself, if they could be much larger and, maybe they would be digital. I have not looked into it, but I'm just wondering what kind of leeway.
If I might interject, before we get into discussion about maybe what we might do, I think it's worth letting staff complete their presentation on the other things that they saw, because that I think may have some bearing on our discussion.
Absolutely, sorry.
Okay, Mrs. Browning. We're good.
So we thought it would be helpful to show some examples of some other schools. We went out for a drive one afternoon and kind of marked off all the major high schools around us. This was our map. Jim took this very seriously. Odyssey.
The shades are really nice.
Pardon me, is there a way to turn the lights off so we can see the slides better?
Yeah,
Jim
probably.
better.
So we can get a better look at Jim? That's what you're after?
Important at all.
Wow. Nice shades, buddy.
Thank you.
And we did check ahead of time, let all the schools know that we were coming out, we were going to
I
take
wondered.
some pictures,
I
we were
saw
going
you
to measure,
measuring.
some measure. We
We
met
weren't
with a few
gonna look
people
at that guy.
on our journey just to make sure that they knew that we weren't suspicious, even though that suspicious. Okay. One of our first stops was at Naperville Central, and this is one of the newer types of sign. It's called a full color sign, and it's one of the latest of the digital signs. It shows all colors. It can show also photographs. So often these schools will put up pictures of students up on their board, and so that's kind of a nice feature. So this is one of the newer ones. There are two in this slideshow that are newer, so they're kind of all over the board. Yes?
Real
Jim?
quick note on this for everyone, that's about 20 square feet, that method. We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
Here's Naperville North. It was one of the first types of signs, digital signs, but you can see they're advertising Homecoming Carnival. Community is welcome. But that's a high sign. That would not. Here's Wheaton Warrenville.
Nice.
Here's Wheaton North. It was not working that day. So more thing that can break too.
Similar.
Downsides of electronic.
Similar design.
This is Glenbard West. Glenbard South, they say learn about the future of Glenbard schools. Edison Trail, they're advertising early dismissal. There's Willowbrook High School. Yes.
One other quick note, as you can see, after we went through Naperville Central, we kind of went at the signs that were orange and red. Those are monochrome, and that's the only color they come out with. So that Naperville Central, the full color display, can show different colors compared to, that's all that the older signs could.
These are, okay.
Yes, these are
All right.
older signs, good point. This is advertising their village's Oktoberfest.
So not just used for school things,
Right.
but for the
Correct.
community as a whole.
Looks like Lyons Township Board is meeting tonight as well, but that's an older sign, as you can see. Hinsdale South High School, they're taking some measurements of that. Benton High School,
Bison Pride.
and I think they emailed me this photo, and they said that this was one of their earlier signs, and that was up for being
Just there last week.
overhauled. Lake Park,
Yeah, it's
York is welcoming their alumni. And finally, Hinsdale Central, and this is another example of the full color sign. And this is within the last year, Hinsdale Central put up
they
this sign.
changed it. Could I ask a question? So all of these signs and all of these communities are in compliance with their codes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
I
Not
believe
they're
that all,
grandfathered or?
I believe that all of the schools in our conferences, both schools, they all have digital signs, and all of the schools in DuPage County have digital signs as well. So this is just a map, and I just put a star of where we are, right in the middle of it. I think that these are kind of obvious what the benefits of digital signs are. You can quickly and easily share information.
Sure.
You know from just being a board member how much news we have on a daily basis. Just, minute by minute, we could change that for people. Just the academic announcements. For example, the National Merit semifinalists were just released. We have 3 at North, 2 at South. Those 3 at North are up on the board, the old-fashioned message board, but we don't have that capability at South, so we can't share that with people driving by the school. Honor roll information, school calendar reminders. Somebody said, one of the signs said late start today, so that would be helpful to people who forget, probably. Invitations to events, obviously the open houses, parent events, but also, again, the community. So all the plays, musicals, sporting events. We have a blood drive at North, so they could be invited into the schools. Obviously, congratulatory messages are things that we already do at North, but weather-related closings, crisis messages are so important. There are sometimes unannounced drills, lockdown drills that happen, so so the people aren't worried to see police cars out in front of the building. They would know with that sign, lockdown drill in progress. So that's one of the main benefits. So again, just an opportunity for us to improve and provide a clear welcome. I think it's kind of confusing being an outsider sometimes. Where's the school? It's hard to tell. One picture that we had of the sign here at South, as you're driving east on 63rd, you don't see that sign as it's positioned right now. So
That's right.
it's just another thing to keep in mind. So however we proceed, it's an opportunity to improve. So we're looking forward to doing that.
The next couple slides are some renderings I put together. What a digital sign, messaging sign for North and South High Schools. So just the possible digital.
But these are not these are not in compliance.
No.
And you were,
Digital anything is not in compliance.
and we've asked once and they voted no, correct?
Right, yes.
That's correct.
So North High School and
That'd
South
be a
High
nice
School.
little setting for, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's
So just to
nice.
give everybody an idea of what
Yeah.
could be possible if we proceed that way.
And so the next slide was to discuss pros and cons.
We're looking for some direction, Dr. McDonald.
Well, this is obviously, there's a lot of political
Mm-hmm.
fuel here.
Mm-hmm.
And, the path of least resistance is try to comply
Right.
with
Right.
ordinance.
So that is a good starting point. Something demonstrating what that means in terms of visual, what do you get?
I need to
So-
visualize it.
Right, so,
Yeah.
because I think that if we say, here's the model that complies, and I think it'll be self-evident that it's ineffectual for us. And then we've done some survey work of surrounding schools, and so it's pretty obvious that we're the oddball here in terms of what we have, because others have made it a standard to do something more for the obvious reasons that we've discussed and have been presented. Relative to digital signs, which I think absolutely is what we need to do here. I would categorize it as a need, not so much a desire or a want. This is an essential part of how we can communicate with the community, and it's a tool that could be used not only by the school, but and for the school, but also for the benefit of the community, announcing other things that are going on, other events in the community. But understanding that when this was taken to the village 6 years ago, the ordinance as it was fairly new at that time, and I can see very much why council would be hesitant to do something significantly different after they just got done discussing why and how they should move forward. And
Spent years developing that
right.
ordinance.
They did, and for good reason, because, and if you look at Ogden Avenue today, I'd say to you that the ordinance has been a great tool to improve the aesthetics along Ogden Avenue. But now that it's been in place for a while, it's fair that things might be readdressed, reassessed, and certainly when we look at we have a signage ordinance that has no special provisions for schools per se.
Right.
It's a one size fits all, and we're being lumped in with businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Our purpose for having a sign is appreciably different than what a business would want, and so I think we have good reason to go to the village with a plan that showing what we'd really like to have, what we really think we need for signage, and as well to be able to demonstrate what the current ordinance, if we are forced to comply, what that does. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to have you just have a sign that said down to go south. You wouldn't, or south, community high school south.
There's already
right,
one out
right.
there.
It becomes it's an ineffective tool otherwise, and I don't think that, I doubt very much that the community as a whole would be satisfied with that, and as such, I would hope that there wouldn't be much political wrangling. I think that we might find a receptive audience, at least to start discussion, if we bring something in that is a very well thought out plan, and we say this is what we're after. So we stop kind of talking about what we'd like to have or what we might want to do. This is what we need to have, and then start a discussion. So that's my feeling going forward. I like these ideas, these quick little renderings that you've done. There might be other possibilities as well, other things to consider. I know that you're just trying to get something up for us to think about the possibilities. So I'd be hesitant to say this is the thing that we want to do, but it helps to demonstrate what could happen. So I would very much like to see staff develop this idea further, digital signage for both schools, and to really look at it in terms of what we need to have. We're of course very concerned about safety, and so proximity of the sign to the curb and things. I mean, we're concerned about those things too. So I think if we propose something reasonable, at least we can start a conversation, and maybe that'll be productive.
So Mike, are you suggesting that we have the actual specifications of what we think we want when we go to the village, or are you just saying something akin to?
I think I do think that we need to go to them with something specific. We need to say, this is what we'd like to have happen. To do something, to just say, hey, what do you think about us maybe doing? They need something concrete to respond to, just like we would need to if somebody was bringing something to us to consider.
I think that the initial attempt was pretty specific.
I'm sure it was.
I remember we went, I believe Dr. Evans said we went with something very basic, just real simple lighting, simple whatever, and I'm sure it's probably even less expensive now than it was then, but I think that is definitely the way to do it, something that shows that we're being very responsible.
Right.
And I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to jump in.
I was done. I was really done.
And then I
So
was gonna
please,
add
and anybody
also,
else, I'd love to
seems to me
hear
that
everyone else's comments.
the needs of the community, not just community events, but crises that are happening. That could be a huge service to the entire community. These signs could be. That should be a selling point, I would think.
I agree. At the same time, I would say, though, we understand the benefit, we need to understand the cost.
Yes.
And not forget the fact that even if we had a manual sign, there are ongoing costs associated with that. It's probably less expensive than it would seem on first blush
Except
to
for
go with a
in
digital
terms of
sign.
staff that has to go out and change the
Right.
That's my point.
Bring it up.
It's probably less expensive when you figure in that time.
Yeah.
And there was some insurance money as well. Is to help pay for a new sign, at least at South, because of the damage. And we've kind of just sat on that, not because there wasn't a clear path forward, and that's what we're trying to define now.
Correct.
Could I ask, have we looked at costs yet, or do you have any idea? Where are we that
I
far?
can give you ballparks. That specific sign that you're looking at with just two-sided could probably cost around $60,000. The north sign, which is one-sided, is about $30,000.
30,000 aside, okay.
That's a ballpark. I'd like to make a quick point. We have the north sign up. That's 23 feet from the curb right now. At 40 feet, which is the ordinance, that would actually be in Scott Kasich's office.
Great.
So I think a point, and I think it's a great location. I worked there 8 years. And the 20 square feet that is part of the ordinance for the language, I think that's what that is right there. So I think we can abide by two out of the three.
Got it.
You know, the 40-foot one would not be probably something we can do since the building's there. So, you know, coming from that angle, I think we can propose trying to work with them.
I know one of the big issues is the digital nature of the sign, and I would hope that we would be able to make a case for the fact that we're a school, not a business, and because of course I can imagine if I was on the council, I'd be concerned about, well, if I'm creating a precedent here, what could that mean? And I'd want to argue that we're not creating a precedent, but for maybe other schools coming forward, and I would support their desire to do a similar thing. I think it would be totally appropriate for the same reason that I think we need this. So I think we've got a great case, but we do need to take something to them that's somewhat concrete like this to open up those discussions.
And you said that this particular one, Mr. Collegier, is 6 feet tall?
This would be, with the north cap on it, roughly 8 feet tall, so that would have to come down in size. But if you went from the grass to the top of the actual digital sign, you'd be a little shy of about 5 feet.
Oh, so you could do something else with the...
You would have to, if we were going to 6 feet, we'd have to shorten the top piece of that sign.
Big hole.
Because I know that in terms of safety, when the school is in operation and during school time, they have to drive 20 miles an hour. So regardless, I mean, nobody's going to be going 50. Oh, I'm looking at the sign. I'm going into Scott Kasich's office. I don't think that'll be happening. But
That would slow them down.
But I definitely am in favor of a digital sign. I'm definitely in favor of an ordinance variance as well. And I think it's a community expectation. And I think there's many opportunities for success with this type of approach. So I would be in favor of that.
So do we have any dissenters? People not in favor of going forward to at least investigating more about the digital signs and bringing something together that can be discussed with the village?
I'm sorry, could I ask another question? Have other entities sought a variance as far as we know, Dr. McDonald? I'm aware of one.
I believe that other entities in the village of Downers Grove have sought this, yes. I don't know which ones. I don't know if the school districts or 58 has.
Good Samaritan Hospital did.
Yes, Good Sam. I think Dominic's got one, and I think Ziegler Motors. I think.
The door's open.
All right. Well, I certainly would support going for the
I
variance.
think we have clear direction, Dr. Kupka.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That was
Let's
really...
move on to Freedom of Information. Thank you very much. Let's move on to
thank
Freedom of Information Act.
We had a single Freedom of Information request that was fulfilled in a letter from Mr. Stalen.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. Consent agenda. Are there any items that any member of the board wishes to discuss further? Hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Julia moves, Mike seconds. Please call the roll.
Julie Beckman.
Aye.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Keith Mattoon.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Aye.
Deb Boyle.
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye. I believe we're on to the policy committee.
Recommendations.
Recommendations for action.
I'm going to suggest, Dr. Kupka, that we remove the approval of the 2013-14 district goals. There's enough questions about the content of how they're worded, so they should be reworked before the board votes on them.
Okay.
I would like to be able to contact Mr. Davenport and talk through some of his concerns sitting down as opposed to just tonight.
Okay.
And then bring those back to the board either at the workshop in October or the board meeting in October.
Fair enough. So we're left with approval to delete verbatim recordings and the award of bids for Transition House. And we can have a motion, or we need to talk about this?
Sorry, lost my...
The verbatim
Place I did too.
recordings.
How about, I'll just move that we approve the deletion of the verbatim recordings.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Got a team going here.
Mike
Mike.
approves, Julia seconds. Joanne?
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Julie Beckman.
Aye.
Deb Boyle.
Aye.
Keith Mattoon.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye. Can we move on to the award of bids for Transition House?
I'd like to have Mr. Collegier to make a brief report about that, Dr. Kupka. Collegier?
Thank you. Construction documents were developed for the transition house build-out. Bid documents were assembled for public bidding for 10 prime contracts. 47 proposals were submitted, which was nice to see. We had some good numbers for bidding in all areas. The bid numbers include a fourth classroom, shower area, and staff bathroom, which were alternates in the bid document. So these numbers include those three, the fourth classroom, shower area, and staff bathroom. We're pleased to be within budget with the bids received. There is remaining site work for this project, and we'll bid that separately in a different package that we're working on right now. So with that, urge the Board of Education to approve award of bids for the aggregate amount of $758,126.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Mike
Can I-
moves, Debbie seconds.
Can I,
Question?
yeah, can I just make a comment? Nice to see that, that a couple of these bids, substantial, are going to businesses located within District 99, which is a plus.
You stole my comment.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, and the majority of them are for local companies.
Yeah.
But I would echo that.
They're not far away, that's right.
No.
None of
I would
them are
echo
far
that.
away.
I think it's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I would reiterate that they got the bid because they were the lowest and not because they
That's
were
right,
just
that's right.
99.
Right, but it's not always,
But it's
we don't
very
always
nice.
have
the case.
It's not always the
Absolutely.
case, and it's, so we like to keep the dollars right here when we can.
Okay.
It's just so great to see this project moving forward.
It's exciting.
We need an open house. Joanne?
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Deb Boyle.
Aye.
Keith Mattoon.
Aye.
Rick Pavanato.
Aye.
Julia Beckman.
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye. Moving on to new business, policy committee, first reading.
Second.
Second reading.
Second
Second reading.
Oh, I'm sorry, second reading. Went ahead too quickly.
Oh, these were from April.
I don't know, do you want to say anything, Rick? We're both on the policy committee. I've been doing an awful lot of talking tonight, so.
No, these are the second reading ones.
Right,
So,
So these came through from the old policy committee,
correct.
correct, and
so we know they're flawless.
they're, oh. I don't know about
Because
that.
I was on the old
Yeah.
That's the only reason
I knew
said
why you were saying that. Yeah, so we recommend their approval.
Any discussion?
Should we move them all together if we have a motion?
We need a motion.
As the member of the policy committee, I'll move that, do I need to state this, or?
I believe you need to read them through, read the numbers.
Yeah, all right. I'll move that the board approve policy 5.200, terms and conditions of employment and dismissal, 5.220, substitute teachers, and 5.240, suspension.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Mike moves, Rick seconds.
Mike Davenport.
Aye.
Rick Palmetto.
Aye.
Julia Beckman.
Aye.
Deb Boyle.
Aye.
Keith Mattoon.
Aye.
Nancy Kupka.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to first reading.
We're bringing forward 6 policies tonight for first reading and comment. I can tell you that we had a very good first meeting of our new policy committee and good discussion, and feel very good about bringing these forward tonight. Some amendments were made as a result of our discussion, and I've actually gone through and compared to make sure that those things that we discussed got picked up appropriately, and they're here. So I would recommend that if you have any questions, let us know, and then they come forward in a month for second reading. Right.
Just for, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Just for clarification, the changes to, for instance, the ethics ban ordinance, or the
Yes.
ethics, are the italicized changes, correct?
Yes. And also worth noting that
As usual.
that the changes that you're seeing are the result of recommendation from Illinois Association of School Boards.
Correct.
Does it answer your question, Julia?
Yes, thank you, thank you. Mhm.
I had 2 questions, comments,
Sure.
or 3, I guess. On ethics and gift bans, prohibited political activity under number 4. We say, no board member or employee shall be required at any time to participate in political activity in consideration for that board member or employee being awarded additional compensation or any benefit. And in several places, they talk about the board, I'll give you my notes on the board being awarded compensation or any benefit. And since the board is awarded neither compensation or benefit, I just would ask that you look at rewording that.
Sorry, could you clarify, Nancy, you were speaking about what?
Under the ethics and gift ban,
2.105,
2.105, under prohibited political activity.
item number
Right.
4, correct?
Item number 4.
Okay,
So it says the board member will not be awarded, the board member or employee being awarded additional compensation or any benefit.
oh, I see.
Right.
So we are not awarded compensation or benefit.
So the word additional.
Yet you can't take the word board out because you don't want to be awarded,
Right.
we won't be awarded any benefit or compensation. So I'm just asking you to take a look at that.
Yep.
And maybe
So
revise that
you're
language.
suggesting it would read, instead of it just be awarded compensation or any benefit?
Or any benefit.
Right.
That any employee be awarded compensation or any benefit, and perhaps no board members are not awarded compensation or benefit in any
I understand what you're after. We can,
That is just,
Yep.
Makes sense. Mhm.
And then the second thing I'd like to bring up is on page 3 of 4,
same policy.
same policy, ethics and gifts ban. And under the second paragraph of enforcement, it says written complaints alleging a violation of this policy shall be filed with the superintendent or board president.
Yes?
And I would just recommend we have one person, it's just easier if you have one person to go to, and I would recommend actually the superintendent. I don't know how other people feel about that.
Dr. McDonald?
I guess I would presume, not knowing the intent of the person writing this, but I would presume that both the superintendent and board president are listed in the effect that, in the event the
might be
superintendent was
Is
the
the
one
one
guilty.
who's- yeah.
right?
Correct.
That's a
okay.
very good
Yeah.
thing to have one person, but
But
it's
if he's
also a
the-
good
yeah.
thing to have more than one in the case
Right.
that one of
For the
the,
event you're not available.
I retract my recommendation.
I think more importantly, that we're an elected body as opposed to an employee of the district
Yeah.
as well.
Good point, too.
Yeah.
Well, I had one other comment, and that is on 5.290, employee termination and suspensions.
All right?
Under resignation and retirement, an employee is requested to provide 2 weeks. I would just like to see that changed to at least 2 weeks' notice of a resignation.
To provide, it was on the very first sentence.
Oh, you want at
At least
2 weeks.
At least.
Because the implication is if they come in with 2 weeks and 1 day, it might not be valid, right?
Or hopefully they would come in with 4 weeks' notice.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're still coming in with 2 weeks' notice, right?
Right, but we would
Yeah.
say.
It's still,
2 weeks.
technically, it's still
It's not
qualify.
only 2 weeks.
We wouldn't
It's
want
I understand
1
your.
week and 5 days,
Understand.
4 days.
Once again, I can tell you the language here, verbatim from the association, but
Yes.
I think we can, we'll look at that, we'll talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
Calendar.
In fact, there were several cases where we found issues with the verbatim language when we looked at these.
Okay, anything else on first reading?
I'll take a look at it.
Thanks for keeping us honest.
Shows you what a dweeb I am.
Congratulations to the 2 members of having your first meeting.
Thanks.
We got through many
And
policies.
it was a good one.
Not bad.
Okay, this is our time for our second reception of visitors. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the board on any subject. Having no one come forward, let's go to communications and announcements. Lend?
Our first LEND meeting will be September 27th. It'll be at Marquardt. And it'll be since it's our first session, it'll also contain our elected officials who'll give us an update, hopefully on pensions and other matters that relate to our school district and school districts at large. And so we'll have a report for you at the next meeting.
Thank you very much. CSD.
The SACID board at its July, we didn't meet in August, reviewed the strategic plan. It's a 5-year plan for SACID, and they're pretty much on target. There are a couple of things that we also are a little slower in accomplishing, just so you know that other people are too. SACID has been trying for a few years to establish a foundation, which would be separate, of course, from SACID, but a foundation which would serve the same purposes as other foundations, and that's been a little slower going, and it's an ongoing communications issue, which we can all appreciate, to help the community at large to understand what SACID is all about, because it is rather a little more esoteric, and it spreads out over so many communities. And I had a couple of statistics I wanted to share with you, that SACID is the second oldest special ed co-op in the state. It is the 3rd largest in number of member districts. This is an interesting one that's happened just over the last few years. It operates more state grant programs in the special ed area than any other agency. And it is the largest in number of districts served based on the DuPage-West Cook catchment district. So I just wanted you to know that we are part of a really large, effective organization. And the other issue is we keep adding to our classroom sizes to serve autistic children. And they are younger, and I'm not sure what that's all about, but SACID is doing a good job of serving those students.
Thank you, Julia. Did you have anything on the Illinois Humanities Council?
I just wanted to share with you a couple of things. This is from the Humanities Council website, and it's not exactly an intuitive website address. It's prairie.org. It's not Illinois Humanities Council, but anyway. Some of the things that Humanities Council is doing is they sponsor a capital forum for social studies teachers and students, which offers an opportunity to learn, I should say, about government and social studies, and it's a spring forum which operates at Illinois State University, and I've made that information available to our social studies departments. I can send it to you, Keith, too. Just thought about that. It's a wonderful opportunity. The deadline's approaching, though, so I'll get that to you. And we also are sponsoring screening discussions of films, like a film about South Africa. There is a Rhodes Scholars program, which is ROAD, Rhodes Scholars, which where you can apply for a grant if you have a specific expertise you'd like to present to people in any community, and it runs the gamut from playing the role of Abraham Lincoln to telling about the history of a community in Illinois or the history of an ethnic group in Illinois. They run the gamut, and they're all over the state of Illinois. And the October is the Arts and Humanities Month. So there will be a lot more information about that. Those are just some of the activities. I encourage you to go to the website. It has just a wonderful array of activities, and we are meeting again in September, so I will have more to report next time.
Thank you, Julia. Do we know anything going on at the Education Foundation?
Well, the foundation is working on a couple of projects at this time. Sponsor tents, information, and/or home, and/or alumni, and/or interested parties at the North Homecoming Game, the North-South football game, and the South football game. And we're encouraging people to attend those events. The foundation is continuing to work on the fundraiser scheduled for January called Pizza Wars. The concept is that different pizza vendors in town will come and bring samples. People buy a ticket for $10 or pre-sale or $12 at the door, attend the event, sample the pizza from the different vendors, and vote on the best. Right now, we have, I think, approximately 4 vendors lined up. We're seeking additional vendors, but that is, right now, the work of the foundation is progressing.
Thank you very much. IASB?
Not too much, just a reminder that, the Illinois Association of School Board Conference is from November 22nd to the 24th, and you can now get your preview booklet online, which is really nice because now we can look and to see, which panels we'd like to attend, which seminars, so we might want to start taking a look at that now. Thank you, that's all I have.
Anything else from any member of the board? I would just remind people that we have a special workshop on October 7th, and our next business meeting is at 7:30 on October 21st. So hearing nothing, we're adjourned.
Oh, we have to.
Gotta take a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're so authoritative.
I really don't. It's Robert's Rules of Order. I'm so sorry. I'm so excited about
We
being home.
adjourn, Madam President.
I'll second that
And
motion.
Keith moves. Michael seconds. All those in favor?
Aye. Now gavel.
Now.
Adjourn.